Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Before we launch into the podcast, I'd like to tell you about my book, Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story. This is a book for people who are at a crossroads in life and want to make a fresh start. Judging by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I suspect that you may well be one of those people. This book is going to help you to change your narrative and rewrite the scripts in life that are holding you back. This book covers the latest science and research showing you how to become the person you want to be and live the life that you want to live. I'd like to invite you to get this book not only because I feel it's a great book that's going to help you, but also it's going to support the podcast as well. I love podcasts, but sometimes all of those ads that you get can be really irrelevant and annoying when you just want to listen to a good piece of training or a good interview. So I therefore made the decision with my podcasts that number one, I wanted my podcast to be free so that everyone could listen to it. And number two, that I wasn't going to fund it through all these annoying and irrelevant adverts and commercials. Therefore, if you want to support the podcast and support all the things that I put out there for free, whether it be here on the podcast, my YouTube channel, other areas on social media, then buying a book is going to enable and help that process. So this is what we call a win-win scenario. By buying the book, you help to support my work and all the free stuff that I put out there, and you also get a really transformational book that's going to help you make those changes that you really want in your life. So if you feel you're someone who's at that crossroads in life, you're looking for a new direction, you're looking for a fresh start, then make sure you get this book. Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story is available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Whatever your preferred medium, it's there for you to go get right now. Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Author Your Life podcast. In this episode, we are going to be talking about meditation. You are going to learn how to meditate. I'm going to walk you through a 5-step framework that's going to help you to start a meditation practice, to get a meditation practice that's maybe fallen by the wayside a little bit back on track, or even for you experienced meditators, it'll give you a different perspective to enhance and reinforce the meditation that you're already doing. At the end of this episode, I'll be taking you through a guided, instructed meditation, which you can use in your meditation practice. You can use it right now to do your first ever meditation. You can continue to use it in the days and weeks to come to help you to get into that space and find your way of meditating. So you've got that to look forward to at the end, but first of all I'm going to walk you through the framework that we're going to be using in that instructed meditation. Now for those of you who are watching this, I'm sure that you have already dabbled at least in meditation. Perhaps you have a friend who meditates, perhaps you read a blog post about meditating, perhaps you've even been along to a few meditation classes. What we're going to cover here is a very simple framework to get you meditating, because there's plenty of people out there who will charge you hundreds or thousands of pounds or dollars to take their particular brand of meditation. If meditation is something that you're committed to and it's something you're really wanting to grow and enhance, by all means go and take these advanced courses and learn a particular style or a particular school of meditation. But you don't need these expensive courses to be able to meditate. People have been meditating for thousands of years before there was a 6-week online course or a 12-week instructional program to help you do so. All that meditation requires is you. And meditation is something that's at times overcomplicated, and there's this mystique and allure put to the idea of meditation, the art of meditation. Meditation is a simple practice, and that is what we're going to cover with these 5 steps. With these 5 steps, you could start meditating right here, right now. And indeed, as I said, that's exactly what we'll be doing at the end of this episode. So let's go through these steps, how you can start meditating in 5 simple steps. So step number 1 is find a quiet space. Sometimes I hear people tell me that their exercise is their meditation and they're exercising in a busy gym, or that they find that the housework is their meditation and they have the radio and the TV on. That isn't meditation. You can be mindful when you're doing something, and there's a distinction between mindfulness and meditation that we won't go into too much in this video. Mindfulness is a quality that you bring to any practice that you're doing. Meditation is a very specific practice. You're either meditating or you're not meditating. So if you're exercising, you're not meditating. If you're doing the housework, you're not meditating. So first of all, you've got to find that quiet space, shutting out as many distractions as you can. Because as I'm sure you know, if you've ever attempted to meditate, as soon as you sit there in silence, poof, there will be plenty of distractions running through your mind that are going to take you away from meditation. The last thing that you need is external distractions on top of that as well. So a quiet space might be a particular room in your house. It might be a certain spot in nature that you go to. It might even be going to a meditation center or a meditation class to find that quiet space in which to meditate. Now, as well as thinking of quiet space in terms of physical location, sometimes quiet space as well means time. So particularly if you're someone who's trying to meditate at home, you might have a very busy household. And actually, shutting yourself away in a single room isn't enough to guarantee not being distracted. Actually, the only way to guarantee not being distracted is perhaps to get up before everyone else in your household is awake, or to meditate after everyone in your household has gone to sleep. So quiet space might be a timing thing as well as a physical location thing. Step 2, once you're in that quiet space, is to sit comfortably. Now, if you think of the stereotypical view of meditation, the stereotypical view is probably the Buddhist monks sitting in the temple, and they're in the lotus position. So they have crossed legs, they have the thumb and forefinger together on the knees, they're saying Om a lot. That's what most people stereotypically think of in terms of meditation. And you can meditate like that if you wish. But for me, as long as you're sitting comfortably, you can meditate. Now, I think there is a key thing there, that you should be sitting. With meditation, you want your torso to be upright. That way you're going to have the full capacity of your lungs available to you. You're not going to be constricted and compressed. Breathing is a very important part of meditation. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So you want to be sitting rather than lying. Some people lie when they meditate, but for me, I feel that starts to constrict your rib cage down the back from where you're lying. So just sit comfortably. Again, if sitting cross-legged, upright in the lotus position is going to be uncomfortable for you, that's going to be a distraction for you. And we don't want these external distractions because we're going to have plenty of internal distractions to process during meditation. So sitting comfortably, this could be sitting in a chair with your feet on the floor. By all means, you can go into the cross-legged position if you want to. So this is what I do when I meditate. I meditate on the sofa. In fact, it's this very sofa that you can see here in the video if you're watching on YouTube. And I like to sit cross-legged because I feel that that's quite comfortable when you're on the sofa and when you're on the sofa cushions, and it allows me to keep my torso upright. So you can have feet on the floor, you can have legs crossed, it's entirely up to you. In terms of your hands, you can have them in the lotus position, thumb and forefinger on the knees if you wish. You could just rest your hands on your knees, whether you're cross-legged, whether you're sitting feet on the floor. For me, I just like to put my hands in my lap, and I feel that this gives me a kind of center line down my body that keeps me aligned and keeps me stable both physically and ultimately through the mental and emotional process of meditation as well. So step number 2 is sit comfortably. Step number 3 is to have guided meditation. Now, for those of you who are starting out, you've never meditated before, you're just trying to meditate, I would recommend going onto YouTube, going and finding one of the many meditation practitioners out there, one of the many YouTube channels with guided meditations, and do those guided meditations. Have someone who is talking you through the process, telling you what to focus on, telling you how to relax, instructing you on how to breathe, helping you to focus and to refocus during the process. If you think about any other skill that you learn in life, if you want to learn a musical instrument, if you want to start a new sport, if you want to learn a new language, you get an instructor or a coach or a teacher to help you through that process. Meditation is exactly the same. So go out there onto YouTube, or it might even be a case of going to that meditation center and taking part in a meditation class. Whatever it might be, have someone who's literally instructing you through the process, telling you what to do in the beginning. So that's what I'd recommend if you're a beginner. If you're in the intermediate stage, you might not need someone who is physically talking you through the process. But I still recommend having some type of guide going throughout. Now for me, this is a music or a rhythm. So some people like to listen to nature sounds. Some people like to listen to gentle music like piano. I quite like something called binaural beats. So these are beats at certain frequencies that you listen to through headphones. And the frequencies match a particular frequency of a brainwave that you're wanting to drop into. So it might be the frequency of theta, which is a very low activity brainwave. That's what I find useful. Having that music or rhythm gives you something that's like a set point to come back to and to focus on. So for me, with those binaural beats, they're at a rhythm of the brainwave, the brain frequency that I'm trying to get to. And so for me, that gives me a rhythm to follow to try and drop into that frequency. So you want to have a guided meditation in some form, whether that's somebody literally instructing you or having the music or rhythm or sounds that will just kind of keep you on that particular pattern and on that particular wavelength. So those first 3 steps are the preparation steps of actually getting into meditation. The process of meditation is through the last 2 steps. So the last 2 steps, step number 4 is the breath, and step number 5 is the anchor. And that's all you need to meditate, is these 2 processes. So let's explain a little bit about what these are. So step 4 is the breath. Now meditation, to all intents and purposes, is really just an advanced breathing exercise. Whether you go to this form of meditation or this school of meditation, that particular practice, you'll all find that they are centered around the power of the breath. Meditation uses the breath to change your physiology in the body and thus have an effect on your psychology in the mind. Meditation is all about this breath. Now, some best practice on breathing, because actually a lot of us are poor breathers. And this sounds a little bit strange to say because, of course, we are all here right now because we are breathing. We've spent years breathing in and breathing out. You'd think we'd be pretty good at it right now. But a lot of us are not very efficient and effective breathers. So if I ask a group of students at one of my seminars, for example, to take a breath in, a lot of the time you'll see them when they take a breath in, they go, and they breathe into the chest. When you breathe into the chest, this is a shallow form of breathing. You're not using the full capacity of your lungs. You're not opening up the diaphragm, which goes all the way to the bottom of your rib cage. Breathing into the chest is a characteristic of anxious breathing. So if you think of someone who is in a panic or they're feeling threatened, they'll breathe like this, won't they? It's these short, sharp, shallow breaths into the chest. And this is the body's survival mechanism, is to try and get a short hit of oxygen to go into fight or flight, to either fight off a threat or to run away from it. Now, we don't want to be in a fight or flight state when we're meditating. We want the very opposite. So we don't want these short, sharp survival breaths. We want deep, long meditation breathing. So when you breathe in, rather than breathing into the chest, breathe into the belly and expand your belly like you're pretending that you're pregnant or that you've had a really massive meal. Breathing into the belly in this way, it automatically opens up the diaphragm, opens up the full capacity of the lungs to take in as much oxygen as possible. So when we inhale through the nose, breathing into the belly, opening up the diaphragm, opening up the lungs. And then the power of meditation and the power of the breath comes from when you've taken a full inhale, you hold. And when you hold that breath, that is the stillness and that is the space that comes in meditation. And it's this stillness and space that we're aiming to create between our thoughts. And that comes through that hold of the inhale. And then when you exhale, you do the opposite. Pushing out of your belly, pushing up the diaphragm, up the lungs, and coming out once again. Some people like to inhale and exhale purely through the nose. That would be the yogic way of doing things. Yoga is done all through the nose, and that's what I'd recommend that you do as well. That can sometimes feel a little weird to people at first. So if you're inhaling through the nose, but you find you're exhaling through the mouth, that's okay as well to start. The traditional meditation practitioners would say it should all be done through the nose, and that's something that you ultimately want to get to. But if you're exhaling through the mouth, if you really just do that, get that breath out, then that's okay as well. So with the breath, sometimes people also find it useful to imagine as they're breathing in, imagine that they're breathing in a white, cool light. Breathing that white, cool light in through the nose, and that white, cool light floods through the body, relaxing and refreshing. And as they exhale, they're exhaling out a black, hot light or black, hot air. And that contains all of the stress and the tension and anxiety that's been stored in the body. It's the body letting go of waste, letting go of all the things that you don't want there. And repeating that process, breathing in the white, cool light, exhaling the black, hot light. So that's step 4 for the breath. Step 5 is the anchor. Now, if you imagine a ship's anchor holds it to the bottom of the ocean floor. So if there's a little bit of wind, waves, turbulence, that ship stays anchored to where it wants to be. In meditation, we use the principle of an anchor in exactly the same way. An anchor is a point of focus you return to whenever you get distracted or whenever your mind starts to run away with you, which I'm sure you know. If you've tried meditation, you'll know that this happens a lot. And by the way, this is something that continues to happen through meditation. Even the most advanced meditators don't stop their mind from drifting and wandering off to things. They are just much more trained and much faster at bringing their mind back to focus, stopping their mind running away and being distracted. So we use the anchor whenever we find ourselves in this situation. And this is where you'll see variety and differences between the different schools and practices of meditation. So one form of an anchor is a mantra. So this is actually one that you'll see stereotypically a lot. Thinking back to the Buddhist monks of earlier, sitting in the lotus position saying Om, Om. For Buddhists, the mantra Om is the anchor. And so they say Om, Om, and the Om is their point of focus, keeping their mind stable and where they want it to be. So it might be a mantra. Now this might be something you say out loud, but you'll probably feel a little bit self-conscious and awkward doing that if you aren't surrounded by other monks in a temple. So you can have a mantra that's just said in your head. It could be the mantra Om. It could be a word like peace, calm, release, relax. Just a single word you say again and again in your mind. It could be an object that you focus on. So a very simple object like a glass or a flower or a chair, just something that you keep in your mind and focus on, keep on coming back to. You can use numbers, so you can count in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use the breath as an anchor, so just focusing on the sensation of feeling the breath coming in through the nose into the body and coming out through the nose and out of the body. You can even combine a couple of these different anchors. So one technique that I use quite often is counting my breath. So I'll count an inhale 1 and exhale 2. Inhale 3, exhale 4. And the idea of an anchor is to focus on it, but also notice when you're not focusing on it. Because you'll be sitting there and you might be saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Today from the shops I've got to get bananas, I've got to get eggs, I've got to get milk, I've got to... Oh no, my mind's drifting away, I'm thinking about shopping. Now that's okay. When you notice that your mind has drifted away, just come back to that point of focus. It might be the mantra, it might be the object, it might be the number. And when I'm counting, I'll try and come back to where I remember losing count. It might have been 4, and then come back to 5, 6. If you can't remember when you actually drifted off, you can just come back to that first number. Come back to 1, and then 2. Come back to that object, come back to that mantra. That is your anchor. The point of meditation is not to stay rigid and stuck in the same place. You are going to drift and wander. But just as that ship may drift and wander on the surface of the water, that anchor stays placed below it. And it's ultimately always pulling it back to the correct location. Your anchor meditation does exactly the same thing. So those are the 5 steps that you need for meditation. What I'd like to do now with you is I'd like to take you through a guided meditation, step number 3, and we're going to incorporate some of these things that we talked about. We're going to be focusing on the breath, we're going to be focusing on the anchor. So what I'd encourage you to do to get ready for this and to prepare is to look at those first 2 steps, get yourself in a quiet space and sit comfortably. Now, as a little disclaimer, I know that you may well be listening to this podcast episode whilst you're driving in the car, or maybe you're multitasking and doing some other kind of job or activity. Please meditate somewhere where it's safe to do so. So no meditation while you're driving. No meditation while you're operating complicated heavy machinery. No meditating if you are in a location or scenario where it is unsafe for you to do so. You shouldn't really be multitasking when you're meditating. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of meditation. So if you can't do that now, pause the episode and wait until you're in that quiet space and you have this time to meditate. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to assume that you're in a quiet space and you're ready to go, and let's begin. So we're going to take a few breaths just to center ourselves. So as you remember from earlier in the video, you're going to breathe in through the nose, breathing into the belly, opening up the diaphragm, opening up the lungs, and exhaling. Exhale through the nose if you can, or the mouth if that feels uncomfortable for you. We're going to take our first breath here, so breathing in through the nose, and imagine as you breathe in that white, cool light entering your lungs, entering your belly, flooding through your body. Now hold that breath and exhale. And as you exhale, that black, hot air, that tension and that stress whooshes out of your body. We're going to repeat that once more. Breathing in through the nose, into the belly, opening up the diaphragm, opening up the lungs, letting that white, cool air flood through the body, holding that breath, and exhale, letting that black, hot air, the tension, the stress, the anxiety, leave the body. Now we'll do that one more time, breathing in through the nose, that white, cool air entering the lungs, entering the belly, flooding through the body, holding that breath, and exhale, letting out that hot, black, tense air. In your mind's eye now, I'd like you to imagine a river. Imagine a river that has some personal meaning or significance to you. It might be somewhere you played as a child. It may be somewhere that you go to escape from the stresses of life. It may be somewhere you visited on a holiday one time. Whatever river you choose, make sure it has some kind of emotional memory for you of joy or peace or fun. I'd like you now to imagine that you're walking by the banks of this river. It's a warm summer's day, and you feel the warmth of that sun penetrating your skin, invigorating your body, invigorating your mind. As you walk by this river, you notice a large flat stone. You take a seat on this stone, and you can already feel that it's warm underneath you from all of those hours spent in the sun. And you're sitting on that stone just as you're sitting right now in real life. And you look out across the water. In the river you see there are leaves floating on the surface. As you sit on this stone and you watch those leaves, you notice that the leaves float by you, and that sometimes the river seems like it has more leaves in it. Sometimes it seems that it has a lot less. And you take this time peacefully and calmly to just sit and watch the progress of these leaves. As you sit in this calm, gentle observation, you take another deep breath. Breathing in through the nose, breathing in a cool white air that goes into your lungs, into your belly, into your body, holding that breath and exhaling. As you watch the progress of these leaves in the river, you realize that your mind is just like this river. Just as this river carries numerous leaves on its surface, so too your mind contains numerous thoughts. And just as the river sometimes seems to have more leaves and less leaves, so too the mind sometimes has more thoughts and less thoughts. And as you watch, you see that sometimes the river can seem very clogged with leaves, and it seems that there's almost more leaf than water. But as you watch and observe, you notice that the water always moves them on. The leaves always move downstream and disappear out of sight. The same is true of your mind. Sometimes your mind may feel so full and active of thoughts, clogged with thought, just like the water is clogged with leaves. But eventually, when you give your mind the time and you allow these thoughts to move on, then they too clear and pass, and your mind becomes quiet and open once again. As you realize this about your mind, you take another breath to center yourself. Breathing in through the nose, deep into the lungs, opening up the diaphragm. Breathing that breath into the body, holding the breath, and exhaling, releasing stress and tension. I'd like you now to bring to mind a thought that's been bothering you recently. Might be something that's irritating you, upsetting you, confusing you. Whatever this thought might be, I'd like you just to bring it to the center of your mind. And as you hold that thought there, you look down at the water of the river, and you see that one of those leaves is floating near to you. It floats nearer and nearer. And as that leaf draws level with you, I want you to imagine reaching up to your skull and plucking that thought out of your head, pulling it out like it's on a piece of string. And you hold that thought right now in your hand. You reach across and place that thought on the leaf. You release, sit back, and watch as that leaf starts to float away. You watch that leaf as it gets further and further and further away, until it disappears out of sight. As that leaf has disappeared, so too the thought has disappeared. There's a space where that thought once was. You breathe into this space, breathing in through the nose, opening up the diaphragm, opening up the lungs, breathing that breath right into that space in your mind, holding that breath, and releasing, exhaling. I'd like you now to bring another thought to the center of your mind. Another thought that's been bothering you, upsetting you, irritating you, confusing you, whatever it might be. And once again, you watch the water, and you see a leaf coming towards you. You reach up to your skull, pluck that thought again right out of your head, holding it on a piece of string, reaching across the water, placing that thought on the leaf, and then watching that leaf float away, floating further, floating further, floating further, until the leaf has disappeared. And the thought with it. Once again, there's a space in your mind where that thought used to be. You breathe into that space, breathing in a full, deep breath, filling up that space, filling up your body with new, renewed energy, feeling the power of that breath, holding that space, and exhaling to release. You can come to this river at any time you wish. Anytime you wish, you can sit by the water and watch the leaves float into your mind and leave your mind. Notice the thoughts float into your mind and leave your mind. Sometimes when you sit by this river, The water may be clogged with leaves. Your mind may be clogged with thoughts. But as you continue to sit there, the water will do its work. The water will move the leaves, separate them, and clear space. Your mind will move the thoughts, separate them, and clear space. And anytime you have a particular thought that is troubling for you, you can take that thought, pluck it out of your head just as we did, place it on one of those leaves, and allow it to drift further and further and further away. When the leaf and that thought drifts away, you've created space in your mind. And that is what we want to do in the process of meditation. We want to create this space between thoughts. And in the space between thoughts, we experience that deep sense of peace, of calm. Anytime that you notice these spaces, even just for a fraction of a second, breathe into them and enjoy them. You're welcome to stay by this river as long as you wish, to continue to watch the leaves floating by, to allow the thoughts to float in and out of your head. Take whatever time you wish to enjoy and savor. When you're ready to return to your day-to-day activity, and just gently wiggle a couple of toes, fingers, shuffle the shoulders, shuffle the hips. Then when you're ready, take one last breath, open your eyes, and start to go about your day once again. I'll leave you now to enjoy this river for as long as you wish.